Brain Games was all about our perceptions and misperceptions of reality. You know, it was a show about neuroscience. We had neuroscientists on the show explaining key ideas about the brain and how often reality is coupled to perception and how often perception is skewed. So you don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. This was a philosophical takeaway from a scientific show. So getting to promote the show and getting to promote these highly philosophical implications of reality being warped by our skewed perception, but having that backed up by neuroscience and having all these cool little games I could play when I went to promote the show on the Today Show kind of made me a sort of an accessible person who was like making people trip out a little bit. Yeah. And then whoever was engaging with that and was interested in what I was talking about could then dig deeper and find my videos where I took these philosophical implications, such as reality is coupled to perception, to then like wax philosophical about what that means. And then that's what Shots of Awe was for, to dig deeper. Well, what does it mean if reality is coupled to perception? So then what is perception? Well, we have these lenses of perception and we see with our lenses and we see through our lenses, but we don't often see the lenses themselves. And when we do see the lenses themselves, we realize, hey, we have some kind of agency over our perception in the world, right? We can mediate our perception. We can hack our perception. So this has led me down a whole rabbit hole of like consciousness hacking and like stewardship of internal life and like kind of wanting to engender my own reality and create my own movie. Like if we don't really get a direct experience of reality anyway, if reality is being mediated by the processes in our brain, perhaps we can exercise creative agency over those processes and give ourselves the experience of reality that we wish.
Right.
So this is where science becomes about like, you know, us taking control, a creative control over our experience.
And you've always been talking about that creative control, or is that something more you've been playing with the last few years?
Well, to be honest, in the beginning, my videos were a celebration of the human capacity to transcend our limitations. So my videos were all about technology. I mean, you could almost call it like techno porn, because I was like a sort of unapologetic techno optimist, and I drank the Kool-Aid of singularity and this idea that we could engender our own godhood, that our tools were scaffoldings of our minds, and we could use our tools to transcend our limitations. We didn't stay in the caves, we didn't stay on the planet. Soon we won't even stay within the limitations of biology. I mean, this was something I could drink in because it provided an antidote to existential despair, right? Because we are mortal beings who long for immortality. We are constrained and we are finite, and this causes an unbearable amount of angst because we can ponder the infinite, but we're housed in a heart-pumping, breath-gasping, decaying body. So I fell for the Ray Kurzweil Singularity Narrative because it provided an antidote to this feeling of being constrained by our mortality and finitude. This was the beginning of Shots of Awe, a rallying cry to overcome our limitations, right? It was very much inspired by a book by Alan Harrington called The Immortal List, when he said we must never forget we are cosmic revolutionaries, not stooges conscripted to advance a natural order that kills everyone. So I'm like, give me that. But in the meantime, right, in addition to my advocacy for the human-machine enterprise and us building tools to overcome our limits, in the meantime, we have to also find a way to manage our day-to-day reality. How do we mitigate against depression? How do we mitigate against anxiety? How do we mitigate against boredom? How do we mitigate against existential despair in case our technology project fails us? And so then it became this idea of like, okay, well, we need to learn to hack our day-to-day perceptions. Right. And so from that was born my interest in mediating consciousness, in flow, in altered states of consciousness, in psychedelics, psychoactive compounds, and cannabis, any and all ecstatic technologies that I could find.